Hello, everyone, and welcome to the stream. Hopefully, everybody can hear me. If you're in the chat room, maybe just give it a thumbs up. And hello, little wave, if you're tuning in from wherever in the world. And hopefully, you guys can all hear me just okay. This is day 1, session 2, the PM session of Bahrain preseason testing 2021. We've had a lot of action so far in the early part of the day today. Currently 9 a.m. Eastern here in Ottawa, Canada. So if you're in the live chat, just drop in the chat room there where you're watching from and what part of the world. I'd be interested to see from where everybody is watching. But we've got a very busy day to catch up on in day 1. Before we get to all the action and recapping just what happened in the morning and then going on to what's happening currently on track, just wanted to let you know that this stream, as long as our Backmarkers F1 Show podcast is sponsored by the GPBox.com, you can check the links down below in the description of this video. They've sent us some exclusive discount codes for Backmarkers F1 Show subscribers, so please check that out down below. You can also use the hashtag BMF1Stream on Twitter to ask us some questions. I've got my Twitter open here, as well as we got the live timing as well. So if you send in any questions through Twitter, I should be able to get to those, as well as in the chat as well. So any comments, any questions you get to, and then throughout this session, I'll be reading them out online. Tomorrow, we got a busier day lined up. We got Shaker from the Backmarkers F1 Show podcast joining me as well. And then it'll be Tim Haraney joining me afterwards for a post-show wrap-up. Tim is a former Canadian racing driver and TSN's F1 analyst here in Canada. You might remember Tim from our podcast a little bit earlier on in 2020, which you can find on our channel as well. Okay, so that should about do it for all the introductory stuff, so we can get on to some of the analysis and what's going on track. Currently, a minute 56:30 left in this session of day 1. So I've currently got the feed going up here, so hopefully if you're listening or watching at home, maybe you can try and sync it up with your feed. So if I happen to be commenting on something that's going on the screen, that's not exactly happening at the same time over there at your, that's fine. Currently, we've got Nikita Mazepin on track for Haas. Mick Schumacher was in the car earlier this morning. Schumacher will be in the car in the PM session tomorrow, and then Mazepin will take on in the AM. And one of the big stories really in this afternoon session, and just reading as I was coming in today, is the sandstorm that's going on right now in Bahrain. I know sometimes in preseason testing in Spain we have issues with snow and cold conditions, but it's a sandstorm that's the problem here in Bahrain. So that's kind of the issue with winter testing here in this part of the world, is the fact that you're going to have some of these issues. So we've seen some somewhat limited running here in the PM session, but because it's so limited now with the 3 days of testing, that the drivers just have to get out anyways and just get on track and do what they can. So that's what you're seeing right now at the moment. So before we just continue with the live coverage of the PM session in session 2, let's just do a quick recap of the morning session. In case you missed it, it was very early. It was a 2 a.m. Local start time here for testing, so I missed definitely the AM session. But Daniel Ricciardo was fastest in the morning session on day 1 with a lap time of a 1:32.2. He completed 45 laps. Below him in P2 is Pierre Gasly for AlphaTauri, only 2/100ths of a second behind him at 1:32.231, followed by Max Verstappen in P3, Esteban Ocon in P4, Charles Leclerc in the Ferrari in P5. A much better start to testing this year for Ferrari, although toward the later end of the session, Ferrari did have some issues with their power unit, and he did pull over, causing a red flag, so hopefully they got that fixed up. Then we got Kimi Raikkonen in 6th. Sebastian Vettel for Aston Martin, his Aston Martin debut, 1:33.7, a second and a half behind the pace, but obviously lap times don't really mean that much in testing. I'm sure you guys already know that. Roy Nissany, the reserve driver for Williams, who's got the whole day to himself today, which interestingly enough, we'll get to that, and I'm curious to know what your opinions are for that. He places in 8th. Mick Schumacher for Haas in his debut, he's got 9th, 1:36.1. completing 15 laps. And then the big story, I think, in the AM session was Valtteri Bottas for Mercedes, a 1:36.8. Only completed 6 laps, though. Gearbox issues for Mercedes, and that is why he had such limited running. But they are back on track now, so they have been able to get out there. So yeah, that was a pretty eventful and morning session here. Just gonna update Twitter to see if there's anything of note here. But let's take a look at this tweet from Sebastian Vettel, and just kind of see what the track conditions were like, and what are some of the things that that he was looking out for in his first session. He says it was quite a tricky morning because it's very windy and the grip was quite low. I think everybody was facing the same track conditions, but still it was very good for me to get a proper read about the car, getting used to all of the new elements. So, like I said before, lap time's not too much important in winter testing, but really what's important this year in winter testing is just seeing how many of the teams can successfully run without any issues. Obviously, Mercedes losing a ton of time this morning with that gearbox issue. So it's not like previous years where we used to have 6 or even 8 days of testing where you could kind of really work out these issues. Unfortunately, you can't because of only the 3 days. So right now we have Lance Stroll, who is driving for Aston Martin for the first time in this PM session. He's just come into the pits. So yeah, very, very important for every team to try and maximize the results. That's why it was a very good session this morning for the likes of AlphaTauri and Red Bull, who were able to complete a really good amount of laps. Pierre Gasly did the most laps this morning with 74. And then Max Verstappen behind him did 60 laps, and then Kimi Raikkonen as well in the Alfa Romeo, 63 laps. So a healthy amount of laps there, but Pierre Gasly topped the amount of laps done in the morning session. So there's a shot of, right now they're showing Charles Leclerc on the pit wall. Yeah, hopefully that Ferrari had their car launch and I guess livery launch on March the 10th and did a filming session yesterday. I'm not sure what you guys think of that Mission Winnow green kind of combination logo on there, but yeah, they're hoping that they fix their issues from last season. They got pretty much almost a brand new rear at the car. They got a new gearbox, obviously upgraded power unit, some changes at the front too, a little bit on the nose. So hopefully that they got their issues fixed out. I don't think it can get much worse than it did last year, but you never know, I think. And they had some issues this morning with the power unit. And I think that even for Mercedes, too, with the gearbox issues that they had, I think it's going to be slightly of a concern for the customer teams like Aston Martin and the team that we're seeing on track right now with Lando Norris on the hard tire, and that's McLaren, because McLaren are the only team this year to be debuting or using a new power unit than to the one that they did last year. So that's a big, big change for McLaren. So pretty good start for them, though, so far with Ricciardo being able to do a healthy amount of laps. And of course topping the timesheets, which is a nice thing for McLaren. But they've done that actually the past couple seasons in winter testing, if you guys can remember back to that. So we got Lando Norris currently out on track. Currently only 4 cars out on track. I think from the looks of it here on the tracker, we got another Red Bull out there as well and an AlphaTauri. Coming under 2 hours in this session. Yeah, guys, if you're watching in the chat, just drop a comment or a chat in the room. Just tell me where you're watching from. I know it's early start. As I see somebody was asking why there was no session 1 stream. I didn't feel like doing a session 1 stream. Obviously for us in Canada, it's a 2 a.m. local start time. So it was sort of, I guess, very early in the morning or very late at night. So I just figured that now would be more of a prime time for everybody to watch, because most of the viewers who are in Europe, it's mid-afternoon there, 1 or 2 o'clock. And it's also here early in the morning. It's 9 a.m., just past 9 a.m. here in Canada, so more people will be willing to watch. And yeah, look at that. We got one comment there saying we're watching from Cambodia. That's pretty crazy. That's a long way away from here. So hello to you in Cambodia. And that just noticing here, you can see Lando Norris just weaving here on the straights, just how much dust he's kicking up on the start-finish straight heading down into turn 1. There's so much sand on the track, and it's not ideal, but I think that these drivers just have to try and make the most of it. So we might not get the best representative times on this session today with just the tricky conditions that we're seeing, but I just found that was a crazy ton of amount of dust and sand that Lando Norris was kicking up there. Calgary, Alberta, the only part of Canada that matters. It's nice. I got actually a family friend who is currently living out there in Calgary, Alberta. And yeah, he's always posting really nice photos when he's going on hikes. So yeah, Calgary is much nicer than Ottawa, Canada. I can guarantee you that for sure. We got another one, Brett, saying he's watching from Oklahoma, USA. Hello to you, Brett, from all the way out in Oklahoma. Is that Midwest or South? I'm not exactly sure I'm not too sure of my U.S. geography, but I think it's somewhere there in the Midwest. So hello to you there. There's a shot of the Red Bull garage there. I think it's Max Verstappen has got the whole day to himself today, and then Sergio Perez will be making his debut tomorrow in the car. But pretty quiet right now on the track. We got Carlos Sainz making his Ferrari debut today in this PM session. He's out there for Ferrari at the moment. What do you guys think of that partnership of Sainz and Leclerc? I mean, I know I did the video of the teammate tail of the tape, and I kind of had the opinion at the end of that video that this would be potentially an explosive relationship for the two of them, just because I think that Sainz and Leclerc are kind of almost the same. They're both incredibly competitive, both incredibly talented as well, young and hungry. And I know that Ferrari maybe kind of thought that they're bringing in Sainz as a number 2 to support Leclerc, who's going to be their next, world champion and the golden boy at Ferrari. But I don't think that Sainz is going to give it up that easy. So I'm curious to know what you guys think. I mean, they seem to be getting along really well behind the scenes from what I saw from the livery launch and everything like that, which is good. But I think that on track, neither of them are going to give an inch. So I think it's going to be a really interesting battle here. But here he goes on his first flying lap here. And I could barely see him coming out of the sand and the dust of the sandstorm here heading into turn 1. Sainz, yeah, like that Mission Win Out logo, the green, it's very, very strange. I don't know if they're going to go with that logo because of the whole, tobacco sponsorship rules in certain different areas of the world. But yeah, I don't really like that shade of green on there as well. So Brett replied back, he says Central North of Texas. Okay, so thank you. I think I kind of get a picture of where that is now. We got another viewer, another Chris, watching from Livermore, California. I've actually never heard of that the city before, but hello to you from Ottawa to California. Much nicer weather, I'm assuming, in California than it is here. Although it's spring seems like it's finally coming out now, which is nice. But we've had a pretty difficult winter like we usually do. But where are you guys watching from? I know some got a comment here that's saying that you can't watch even via F1 TV. I'm currently watching from F1 TV. Luckily, they extended the rights to Canada so that I could actually live stream sessions and not just get the on-demand. So I'll maybe try and find you guys a link. I used to have an old link to be able to watch Sky Sports F1 live. If I find that, I might just drop it in the chat for you guys if anybody's looking for a stream to watch along with this. I know it's a little bit hard if you don't have it up on another screen and you're just listening to me talk to it, but we got Carlos Sainz currently 8th, coming out of the final corner to cross the line. 2 seconds off the gap there of Verstappen, but he is on one of the prototype tires. I'm not exactly sure which one, but when you don't see the sidewall markings, the white or the red or the yellow, it's a prototype tire. So there we go. And here's one of my favorite liveries, the AlphaTauri. This is rookie Yuki Tsunoda, who's in the car, and one of my favorite liveries. I know there's a ton. So drop your thoughts in the chat as well of which livery is your favorite. But this one I just think is a very nice, a classy one. And the driver here for AlphaTauri, 1.3 seconds off the gap for Yuki Tsunoda in his first run in an F1 car officially in 2021 in this session. But they're expecting big things from him. If you guys haven't seen the AlphaTauri teammate tail of the tape video, check that out as well. Because they're really hyping him up here. Red Bull and Helmut Marko in particular has kind of looked at Tsunoda as their golden boy in a way, and a driver that they want to push up to the Red Bull senior team very quickly. And he's really been able to really build a hype around himself. And everywhere I looked and researched in my video, the hype seems to be real. He's very talented. He impressed a lot in his preseason test last season at Imola in one of the old Toro Rosso cars. So they're expecting a lot from him. But I'm curious if AlphaTauri will be able to get in with the fight because, as I mentioned in that video, it's kind of going to be interesting to see whether I think Ferrari has been able to do enough to claw back performance to where they're not going to be 6th this season. But can AlphaTauri kind of take that fight to the likes of Alpine and Aston Martin and possibly even maybe Ferrari, depending on where they are. So that'll be interesting to see. They're currently showing a replay right now of Nikita Mazepin going around in the sand, and you can really just see in these slow-mo shots just how sandy it is. And let me take a look there for that Sky Sports F1 feed. I'm going to see if I got it here. I got a bunch of tabs open, so just bear with me for a second, and I'm going to try and find it. I feel like they're making it harder and harder to try and watch a live F1 without paying for it somehow, but I know people always have a way to try and get those links out there. But I'm just going to try and see if I still have it. All right, let's see. What do you guys think of the Haas livery as well? I know it's very Russian because of Mazepin and of course his father, who's the big backer and financial support behind that team. But I think the car looks pretty good in that regard. But they went with the full thing with the colors and everything for the race suits. And currently watching Lance Stroll on board as well. Of course, probably my favorite livery. We're gonna get to that a little as well. Mother Russia, yeah, exactly. We got another viewer from Trinidad and Tobago. Wow, that's really cool. Hello to you, and very happy that you can be here. Very happy that all of you are here, and very cool to hear where everybody is watching from around the world. That's really awesome and makes me happy to see people from different parts of the world chiming in. So currently on board with Lance Stroll. Lance Stroll, I think he is on the hard tire here. Like I said, lap times aren't too really important to me. I think in previous seasons when we used to do preseason, we were always kind of trying to look into the lap times a little bit more. But I don't think that it's as important this year. And I'm really just looking at which teams can consistently run smoothly and with no issues. But this car really looks good on this onboard. I mean, I know Aston Martin put one out earlier, but seeing it now officially for the first time on board looks really good. Lando Norris, no, that is not Lando Norris. Hold on a second, just here. Antonio Giovinazzi just went third fastest, 0.5 off the pace of Max Verstappen, who is still in first place with an hour and 41 minutes to go in this PM session on day 1. Let's see, we got some other viewers chiming in from New York. I don't know if that's New York City or New York State, but hello to you. Steve from Arizona. Hello, Steve. We got one from Indonesia. Hello to Indonesia. So we're almost covering every continent here in the world, so that's pretty cool. It's good to know, okay, I'm going to try and find this link for you guys here. I have it bookmarked somewhere here. I've got so much F1 stuff bookmarked everywhere, but I think I might have just found it. All right, I think you guys are in luck. If anybody is... Okay, so I have 2 laptops open here. I just got to find a way to send this to my other computer, and then I'll be able to drop it in the chat for you guys. Another viewer, Miguel from Puerto Rico. Hello to you, Miguel. Thank you very much for tuning in. All right, so I'm just going to try and send this out here. Also, guys, if you're on Twitter, you can follow us at TBMF1 Show and use the hashtag BMF1Stream if you want to interact with us there, or share the link if you want your friends and family to tune in. And if you got any questions or anything like that, you can either drop it here in the chat or drop it in Twitter and use that hashtag, and then we'll try and get to it. Today, it's very much sort of a very testing day for this live stream as well. It's the first time I'm doing a live stream. So I hope that the audio is good for you guys and that the video is good. The stream is looking like it's stable, which is nice. So it's very much just kind of a test day, and we're just here to kind of enjoy the first session of Formula One. Tomorrow, like I said, if you weren't with us at the top of the hour, tomorrow should be a very good show and a very good live stream. We're going to be going on a little bit earlier at 8 a.m. Eastern, and it's going to be me for the first little bit, and then Shaker, if you know from the Backmarkers F1 Show podcast, will be joining me as well. So it'll be a little bit more easier there. We'll have 2 people for a dynamic. And then when the session is over at 11 a.m., Tim Haraney from the TSN Racing Pod here in Canada. If you don't know Tim, he's a former Canadian racing driver. He raced in the Canadian Atlantic, or sorry, not the Canadian Atlantic Series, the Champ Car Atlantic Series, which was sort of kind of like an IndyCar series, if you don't know, in North America. It was a very great series, so check that out if you don't know about it. So yeah, former racing driver, drove in the Daytona 24 Hours. He's got a lot of racing experience and is also an F1 analyst for TSN Canada Sports Leader here in the country. So he's going to join me and us at 11 o'clock for sort of a post-up and wrap-up show. So that should be a very good show for Saturday. So Lewis Hamilton currently out on track. 18 laps completed for Lewis. Like I said earlier, if you guys were not here for the AM session or for the beginning of this stream, then Mercedes were running into some gearbox issues that limited their running. Valtteri Bottas only did 6 laps early in the AM session, but Hamilton currently out on track now, and green sector 1, so we'll see if he can kind of bump himself up in the times. What do you guys think of the AMG sort of silver livery on the engine cover? I've seen a lot of teams like Ferrari kind of at the rear of the car on the engine cover went with the sort of burgundy SF1000 special livery. But yeah, I'm wondering what you guys think of that, and does it kind of work? In some angles, I like it, and then in other angles, it doesn't look as good. I like that they kept the black livery. It's very nice, but so far, I haven't heard or seen any kind of crazy innovations from Mercedes, any moving steering racks or anything like that. So yeah, they're kind of on the back foot early so far in this session and day 1 of testing, but you know, we know Mercedes is so good and so elite, so I don't know if we can really count on that to be like that for very much longer. But as he crosses the line, let's see what his next lap is. 1:33.1, so that does bump him up a little bit in the timing sheets. Slots in just behind Kimi Raikkonen there in 9th place, a 1.5 seconds off the gap. He's going to go down for a cool-down lap as well. Just look at that comment here. As long as Mercs are starting from the rear of the grid, I'll be happy. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't argue with that. Yeah, that's for sure. Just read some of those chats. Another viewer from London, England. Hello there. Yeah, I was just reading this comment about Haas and how they sell out, and I know it's tough for them because you know, they need that sponsorship money and they need that cash influx a lot. So I don't know if it's necessarily selling out. I guess you could look at it that way, but it's kind of the way Formula One is at this point. Sort of the situation that Williams was in the last couple of years. But yeah, that's just kind of unfortunately the way it is. It's going to be tough for them though, because if you guys haven't heard, Haas are effectively, they didn't spend any tokens on any of their car, not the front of the car, not the rear of the car. So they're kind of saving all of that, and yeah, they're just kind of going to chalk up this year to a loss and see what they can do and hope for 2022, which, you know, might not be the worst way to go considering how desperate they were for funds and how they were in a tricky place last season with the shutdown. So yeah, I think Haas might be the one at the back of the grid this season and might give the chance that Williams will go up and possibly maybe even challenge Alfa Romeo. We're going to get to Williams a little bit later because I'm seeing a lot of positives from them as well. So Esteban Ocon currently on track. Sorry guys, I keep saying I'm going to drop this link. I'm going to do it right now. Esteban Ocon currently out on track for Alpine. Gorgeous looking livery. I really actually have to probably look at it to see which livery is my favorite because it's pretty close between Alpine and Aston Martin. I know like Aston Martin has a lot of hype behind them, and Vettel is my favorite driver, and obviously supporting Lance Stroll because he's Canadian, so slightly biased that Aston Martin is my favorite, but the Alpine one just looks really, really good as well. And Ocon just went 4th fastest, 7/10 behind Max Verstappen's best time. Fernando Alonso will be back in the car tomorrow. And they're just showing a replay here. Yeah, this is that tricky combination. The turn, I believe it's turn 7, kind of when you're going braking downhill. I always lock up here when I'm playing the F1 video game as well. So it's one of the toughest corners on this track for sure. All right, so I'm going to pull up my email here so that I can drop this link for you guys. Yeah, you really want Haas to do well for Gene, yeah. I want Haas to do well for Gunter Steiner as well. That guy deserves some good luck nowadays. It's probably going to be another pretty stressful year, I think, for Gunter Steiner. Okay, so I'm going to try and drop this link in here. Okay, and okay, guys, so if you're looking for a link to try and stream, I have an old one it's a live Sky Sports F1 stream. So I think Sky Sports F1, that should work, hopefully. I just kind of quickly opened it, and it looked like it was working. So yeah, if you guys are looking for somewhere to watch, but obviously you can't pay for F1 TV or you don't have it available in your local area, you might be able to access it through that link. And I just closed the chat accidentally, so let me just open this up again. Pop out. There we go. Okay. All right, now we're back in business here. Is Kimi the Bob Dylan of F1? That guy is awesome. Yeah. More so, he's going to turn into the Mick Jagger of F1. That guy, isn't he like 1,000 years old and still touring and all over the world, still making music? But yeah, I'm happy to see Kimi still driving. I honestly thought he was going to retire at the end of last season, but I'm a little surprised that he kept going. But yeah, I'm extremely happy that he's back in the sport, and I still think that he can be competitive, and he was competitive the last 2 seasons. He outbested his teammate Antonio Giovinazzi. So yeah, very happy that Kimi is back in the sport. So Max Verstappen there just going a little bit wide. Man, Red Bull was really hiding that RB16. Couldn't find any pictures of it other than the official renders that they put out. And man, it's interesting to see some of the innovations on that car, but they were very, very tight-lipped. And I was reading something yesterday, I don't know if you guys saw this, that they said that essentially, teams can copy certain aspects of the car from 2 days. It only takes them 2 days, so that's why teams are so tight-lipped. That's why Mercedes was kind of hiding their W12 as well during the livery launch. And yeah, they said apparently that it only takes 2 days, and they can essentially just copy some aspect of the car. So that's why the teams are very, very secretive this year of the footage and the pictures that they're putting out. So yeah, we weren't really able to see the RB16B until it came out today, officially on track for the first time. So we got Lando Norris there, second place, just crossed the line to finish another lap, 132.4. Yeah, Giovinazzi in P3, it is not that bad. Definitely some good run. Obviously I wouldn't read too much into the lap times. Today is just more systems checks and everything, making sure is working. But I think once we get to day 2, I think more teams will be doing more quali sims, and then day 3 as well. I think if any team is sandbagging, they'll probably take the sandbags off and eventually try and really kind of show some of their speed that they got. Obviously, the great advantage of testing here in Bahrain is that the first race of the season is going to be coming here in a couple of weeks' time. So it gives you good data, and the conditions are much different than to what we're used to in Barcelona. Much hotter, obviously much sandier as well, which is a bit tricky in today, and you can see it there. If you're just noticing Lando Norris driving by, just kicking up a ton of sand, even on the racing line too. It's not even just off the racing line. So yeah, it's pretty tricky. Actually, a question here. Would you rather Kimi stay at Alfa Romeo or Callum Ilott replaces him? That's a good question. And it poses another interesting question, too, of, should these teams be putting more into the younger drivers instead of the older ones? Because Kimi now, I believe, is 40 or is going to be 41. Now, obviously, my opinion on that is if Raikkonen is motivated and if he's still bringing the performance, I think that he's more valuable in that team, because he can use his World Championship experience to help the team develop. I mean, he worked with Ferrari for many, many years, won the World Championship with them. So that experience and that knowledge that he can bring to Alfa Romeo is just completely invaluable, and that's something that a Callum Ilott can't bring currently at the moment. Now, I think that Ilott is a very young, promising talent. I wish that they would have put him into the Haas with Mick Schumacher, or like you said, maybe if Kimi would have retired, I think he should have gotten the seat at Alfa Romeo. But I think that if Raikkonen is still motivated and bringing the performance, I think that for now he's the right man for the job. But it definitely brings up an interesting conversation, because we've seen the past couple of years, obviously, teams going for more youth over anything. And but again, I think Raikkonen in that Alfa Romeo partnership, and really the team is Sauber, of course, from his early days with the team. It's worked for him very well, and obviously it fits his kind of lifestyle of just being quiet. He doesn't have to do very much media obligations. But it's been kind of tough for Alfa Romeo since sort of 2018, when they kind of hooked up with Alfa Romeo and moved on from Sauber. So they haven't necessarily brought that performance yet, but they got the new nose on the car, slight adjustments to the front wing as well. So yeah, let's wait and see what they can do. But I think that definitely Kimi in the car. I mean, he's still a world champion at this day. And for example, if you remember back to last season at the Portuguese Grand Prix, his opening lap was just absolutely phenomenal. So I mean, absolutely, you want a guy like that driving your car still. So yeah, I think having him there is good. All right, so coming down, hour 28, still left in the session. Go for 3 cars per team. Yeah, I would agree with that for sure. Well, we definitely need more teams. I know one of my co-hosts of the Backmarkers F1 Show podcast, Tyler McDonald. I'm sure you are all familiar with him. He's always, pretty much almost every other podcast, always talking about the need for more teams, more teams. 10 is just not enough. And obviously, the last couple of seasons, we've seen so many drivers out of seats because of that. Not enough teams. You know, drivers have to sit on the sidelines. But more teams, you could have 3 cars per team. Obviously, you know, another comment just talking about that, about the spending cap as well. They can afford their cars. And you mentioned Ferrari as well. For example, because of the spending cap, they're trying to sort of make up that revenue gap by looking at other projects. Ferrari recently just announced they'll be back at Le Mans in the Hypercar Series, I believe in 2023, and they've also kind of hinted at possibly entering into IndyCar. But yeah, with that cost cap coming into play, maybe it's another way that if they were to run another car, then they could do it that way. But 3-team car would be very interesting. Anna says, George Russell is my favorite for this season. Yeah, I think Russell's going to have a really, really good year this year. I think, well, let's get on to Williams. I said we were going to talk about them a little bit earlier, but let's talk about them now. I think Williams is going to be very, very surprising this year, but in a positive way. You know, luckily I was able to join the Williams virtual press conference last week. If you guys haven't seen that video, it's on the homepage of our channel. It's one of the brand new videos we uploaded recently where I was able to ask Nicholas Latifi a question. I probably could have asked George Russell a question too, but I didn't want to kind of, you know, hold up the line or anything. But just kind of the vibe that I got from that press conference from Simon Roberts, the team principal, and Jos Capito as well. Very, very positive things coming from Williams. And you've seen the last couple of days a lot of new sponsors, new funding coming into the team. And they've also got essentially what is a race upgrade package that they're trialing here on the first day of testing and during this weekend. But they're not necessarily just going to set the car aside and focus on 2022. They got a couple of upgrades in the pipeline, but they said that they've learned a lot of good things so far and that they're seeing a lot of positive things. And when you look at the fact that it was just only a couple years ago that they didn't even make it out on track for the first day of testing, the fact that they're already bringing an upgrade package here for this day of testing is quite impressive. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to what Williams can do. Oh, I'm sorry, I just thought my screen that froze there for a second. So yeah, I'm excited. I'm very excited about Williams, and I don't think that they're going to finish last this year. I think unfortunately it'll be Haas, but yeah, I think that Williams are going to be much better. Much better for this year, which is good because we need them back at the front of the grid fighting there. Yeah, Tony says, I need to know what's up with the airbox on the Alpine. Actually, yeah, it was. I was just watching before I went on the air. Tim Haraney on Twitter, who will be on the show tomorrow, he posted a picture of it, and it was absolutely massive. It was like one of those retro F1 cars with the massive airboxes. So, yeah, I don't know. Alpine's kind of one of those teams that didn't have too many sort of upgrades or anything like that on the car. But, yeah, that airbox is absolutely massive just looking at that picture. I'm going to see if I can find it on Tim's Twitter. Just give me a second here. Session time. Just going to try and change scenes here, guys, for a second, but I just want to make sure that the session timer is still accurate. Yeah, just bear with me here. This is, like I said, this is my winter testing here, just trying to get everything sorted out, but hopefully it's all still working. Let's put Russell back in the Merc. He'll be a world champion. Yeah, he definitely could be. I mean, he was up to speed pretty damn quick, I'd say, last year. All right, there we go. So we got the Twitter feed up. I'll get my camera back just in a second. I'm just trying to see. I'm going to try and find that picture from Tim about the Alpine airbox because it was absolutely massive. You guys should go follow Tim as well. He provides, yeah. here's the one I was talking about. So here's the picture of the size of Alpine's airbox there. I hope that you guys can see that. It's pretty damn massive. Let's see if I can open this. Maybe I'll give you guys a bigger picture. Yeah, it's much larger than when you look at the other teams as well. And yeah, it's pretty massive. And I think somebody posted kind of what the older cars used to look like with those massive air boxes. It's so crazy looking at past F1 cars, just how crazy it is that the evolution of cars over the years has been quite funny. But yeah, there's that one over there. So let's just take a browse through Twitter. Let's see if there's anything of note happening there. Max Verstappen just went over 100 laps completed. Verstappen just 0.1 seconds off his previous best latest lap. This is coming from Chris Medland. Conditions still okay on the racing line. Hamilton jumps up to P9, 1.5 seconds off the pace. I was actually trying to get Chris on the show, but he originally was supposed to go to Bahrain, of course, to do his reporting for the race, or the Racer magazine, but then unfortunately, because they changed all the restrictions, he was not able to go, so he might be chiming in just in the chat every now and again to say hello, but unfortunately, we don't have him on the program this year. But at any rate, we'll follow him along on Twitter, see what kind of updates he's posting as well. For next season, Williams, Renault. Yeah, that would be a good partnership to get back to. Those were good days. I mean, Renault is currently only supplying themselves, or Alpine, I guess, now that they're known. But they said that possibly they're looking at maybe Williams getting a Renault deal in 2022. But they also signed a contract with Mercedes for 5 years. So I don't know if that's going to happen. It could just be rumors at this point. You never know. But yeah, I don't think that that's necessarily going to happen. But we'll see. I'm just looking at an earlier comment there from Minecraft. Is it cold now in Canada? Actually, currently at the moment, it's very, very nice. The last 3-4 days, it's been about 10 degrees Celsius. Very, very nice for this time of year. Typically in the winter in Canada here, I mean, March is sometimes honestly one of the worst months because you get a ton of snow and you get really, really, really cold temperatures. But so far, so good. And I think that I'm fingers crossed that we're done with winter. But to be honest with you, I wouldn't be surprised if I come in tomorrow morning for the stream and there's a foot of snow. It's just the way things are around here, unfortunately. So, but it's spring-like so far, which is nice. All right, yeah, there we go. Got the video back there. Lee says, does anyone think Aston Martin will fight for podiums during the season and potentially a win here and there? Yeah, let Lee know what you think of that question. I certainly think that they're going to be in the fight for podiums, and I think that a potential win, I think, could happen for sure. When you look at last year, I think that Racing Point underperformed, and when you look at the comments from Lawrence Stroll, from their technical director Andrew Green, they even said themselves that they did not perform to their expectations last season. Obviously had the 15 points deducted because of the brake ducts issues, but I think that they could have had way more podiums than they did, and they really kind of only collected them at the end of the season. So I think that absolutely, if they can get off the front foot this year, they could potentially grab a couple podiums and possibly a win. Now, if Ferrari are a little bit better than they were last year and they can kind of get themselves back to at least P3, it might be a little bit harder for Aston Martin, but I still think they can probably grab a podium here or there too. And if the racing is sort of anything like it was in 2020, we're sure to get some crazy ones. So I think it definitely could happen, yeah. Also from Canada, and can confirm the nice weather. Absolutely. Where are you watching from in Canada, if you don't mind me asking? Which city, which province, where are you watching from? Let's see. You're going to take a look here just a second on F1's website, see if I can get any team radio or anything like that. I know they got the sort of the live session on the Formula1.com website. I know during Grand Prix weekends they usually put some radio into the live commentary, but I don't know if they're doing that for testing. Hamilton, Ontario. Oh, nice. I know Hamilton very well. I was actually born in Burlington, Ontario, which is pretty much right next there to Hamilton, so I do know that area fairly well. So hello to Hamilton. You guys always there in the greater Toronto area, sort of in that area, always get better weather, I find, though. I used to live in Niagara Falls for many years in that area, and yeah, we never got as bad winters as we do here in Ottawa, so it must be nice. Yeah, it doesn't look like there's any team radio or anything like that. I could play you guys. Yeah, it just sucks that I can't show the actual, footage of the on-track running, but I don't have $34 million or whatever the TV contract price is to pay to show you guys the stream. So I'm hoping that even now with what we're showing with the timing, we don't get dinged for a copyright or anything like that. YouTube's getting pretty crazy nowadays. So on track, got a little on-track overtakes almost going on here between Verstappen and Mazepin. But Mazepin, I think, was on a slow lap, gets out of the way. And Verstappen is on his way on the harder tire. He is currently P1, 131.4. Currently, by the looks of it, 107 people watching along. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining along. Wherever you're watching, whether it's in the morning or the afternoon, wherever you are, very much appreciate everybody joining along for this session. We got a pretty busy day, a lot of stuff to catch up on, and I don't know if you guys could see this from Haas. Just I don't know what is that on the pavement, but it just kind of gives you a good opinion or a good perspective of just how much sand there is blowing out onto the track. It seems like there's a lot more sand on the Sector 1 in the front straight of the track than there is sort of here at the back end. If you're watching now, Max Verstappen making his way around Sector 3, but there's a ton of sand there on the front straight. Oh, let's see if I can play this for you guys here. Get you a little sound of the W12. I still think Mercedes probably has the best sounding power unit, but honestly, you know what? Maybe I'm going to change my opinion. I'm going to say Honda has the best sounding power unit. In the last couple of years, that Honda PU just sounds absolutely amazing, and I really, really like the sound of that. But Mercedes has always had a really, really great sounding power unit in the turbo hybrid era, thankfully, because it's been short of sound, I think, for this turbo hybrid era. Antonio asks, has Alonso did any driving? No, he hasn't. He will be in the car tomorrow. Esteban Ocon has done most of it. He actually just goes second fastest with a 1:31.6, 0.2 off of Max Verstappen's time of a 1:31.4. So very good lap there for Esteban Ocon. He is on the red sidewall. I'm going to call it super soft. I'm going to go back to the good old days when we used to call it the super soft and the hard. I think I'll have to just check which allocation of tires that they brought. But it is the softer compounded tire, so he's maybe going for a little bit more of a performance run, maybe taking some of the fuel out as well. And you see the sparks flying there as the rear end of the car gets compressed. And the downforce too, not too many high downforce, high speed corners on this track, with the exception of Sector 3 and probably sort of the back end of Sector 2. So maybe this track won't be the best representation of the new aero rules. I think we'll see that very quickly in the season, though, once we go to Imola and Portugal. If Portugal especially, we should be able to see it. But this is a good track for teams like Mercedes and Ferrari to really test out their new power units, and especially for Ferrari to see if they've made back some of the power that they had as well. Another question from Lee asks, is there any tracks canceled for this season? So far off the top of my head, what I know is canceled is the Chinese Grand Prix in Shanghai. The Vietnamese Grand Prix at Hanoi has been canceled. It's off the calendar. And I believe that's it at the moment. I think everything else is, at the moment, obviously to be confirmed in terms of whether anything will get canceled or anything like that, but I think those are the tracks that have been officially off the calendar and canceled for 2021. So currently riding on board with Antonio Giovinazzi. If you're trying to maybe sync up the time with where you're watching, my timer's at 1 hour and 13 and 29 seconds, 28 seconds, 27, 26. So hopefully we're not too far off. There's not like a minute or two delay, but it's never going to be perfect in lineup because from everywhere we're watching around the world. Antonio also says, I think McLaren, Aston Martin, and Alpine will be fighting for third. Yeah, I absolutely think so. And you could probably throw in Ferrari there as well if they've seemed to figure out their power unit issues and their problems aerodynamically as well, which they seem to have at least made an effort to make improvements with the improvements at the rear of the car and the slight improvements at the front as well. But boy, that Alfa Romeo looks great too. A lot of great liveries this year. I was very surprised to see so many teams actually make significant livery changes, considering it's sort of a carryover year for 2021. But I think that it's a very, very nice livery, very classy, and they kind of just flipped it from what it was in the previous season. So very, very nice from Alfa Romeo. Ryden says, I've just got on. Is Vettel doing good? He did okay in the morning session. So currently Lance Stroll is in the car for Aston Martin. I'm going to just try and see if I can find... I had it open here, the morning report of where he finished. So Sebastian Vettel was 7th place overall in the morning, completing 51 laps. He had a best lap time of a 1:33.7, which was a second and a half off the pace. So it was a decent morning. I'm going to try and see if I can pull up some quotes here. I'll go to, there's a lot of great Twitter accounts and for sort of each driver. I know Vettel doesn't have social media, so he kind of had to follow his fan accounts in order to get some different thoughts and everything. And I think Vettel officially is going to be going with the pink helmet because he signed on as a brand ambassador with BWT, the water company, which obviously sponsored Racing Point / Force India for the last couple of years, which is why we got the pink cars. So I think that he's going with that. So I'll just read some comments for you from Seb. He says, quote, was good fun to be back in the car. To be honest, it's fun to work with the team, fun to be in the car, fun to slide around. I enjoyed it, and there's more to come in the next days. I just want to see if I can find any comments from him. Here we go. So he said, quote, in terms of performance, everybody knows the strength of the Mercedes engine. So on that front, I don't think we have any excuse. So I'm looking forward to... Yeah, it's actually the first time that he'll be driving first time that he is driving a Mercedes-powered car, which is very interesting after many years of Renault and Ferrari power. And then I'll just read this last one too. He says, quote, it was quite a tricky morning because it's very windy and the grip was quite low. I think everybody was facing the same track conditions, but still it was very good for me to get a proper read about the car, getting used to all the new elements. So yeah, that's about it for Sebastian Vettel and that update as well. So, his time doesn't obviously pop off the charts as something exceptionally quick, but it is his first official time in the car. And Aston Martin are doing a lot of just sort of what the other teams are doing, which is just making sure everything's working up to par. The upgrades that they have on the car for this season, of course, the new Mercedes rear suspension, the gearbox, and of course the upgraded Mercedes power unit as well. So overall, I think a solid session. And to be honest with you, I think this year in testing, if you don't sort of have a headline session in terms of problems or anything like that, I think that you're in an advantage. I think the least amount of problems that you can have in these 3 days, the better, and the more lap times and consistency you've got is what you're really looking out for this season. So we'll see in day 2 tomorrow when hopefully you guys will join us on the stream again, and day 3 as well. I think we'll see some more performance runs from these teams, and then we can kind of maybe dive into lap times a little bit more. So currently on track, it's Nikita Mazepin, the number 9, that Haas machine. And they're just doing a comparison here between him and Schumacher's lap times of this morning. Of course, Mick was in the car in the AM, and Mazepin finishing out the day here in the PM. And just a question here as well from Antonio. What do you think about Schumacher? I'm going to get to the other questions as well. I know there's a lot here. Thank you very much for all the chats. This is great. And it also helps me keep going just being on here solo, so definitely keep them coming. I think Mick Schumacher is, first of all, an exceptional young man. I think just everything from what I've seen from him so far in terms of his interviews and everything like that, I think I'm just very impressed by how mature he is. He's very young and just seems very well put together. Obviously he's got a very famous name and a very famous father, and sometimes that can get to you, but it doesn't seem like it has to him. He seems like he's very humble and just a very, very nice kid, which is always great. And in terms of driving, we've really seen Mick do very well sort of in the second and third seasons of his junior career. If you guys kind of even go way back into his F3 days, he had a very strong later end to his season, and then in F2 as well. His first season kind of showed some promise and some potential, but was still rough around the edges. And then coming into his second season last year in 2020, really refined his driving, and then obviously took the F2 championship. So I think that this year, his first season of F1, you're probably going to see him struggle maybe a little bit more if he continues sort of on that path. It's going to be tough as well, like I mentioned earlier, with Haas sort of being in that position where they're not going to develop the car, they're not going to have a great car, so we might not be able to see all of Mick's potential yet. So that's going to be in the years to come. But I think he's got excellent potential, and we really shouldn't measure him up to his father, Michael. Of course, I think that's unrealistic, for to be talking about world championships at this point, as Nikita Mazepin just runs wide as he locks up both tires actually going into turn one. So I'm very much looking forward to Mick Schumacher, and being somebody as grew up in the Schumacher era and was my favorite driver growing up, and seeing him in the red Ferrari, to see his son driving now on the F1 grid is very special, and it's pretty crazy actually just to think about it, just how time has flown as well, and we've got another Schumacher on the grid, and it's funny because Michael Schumacher was my favorite in the red Ferrari in those days, but my sister and I also really loved Ralf Schumacher back in the Williams days, and then when he went on to Toyota as well. So it's a pretty exceptional racing family, the Schumachers are. So and of course Ralph has got his son as well in racing too, so who knows, maybe he'll be in Formula One, and we'll have two Schumachers in there as well. And yeah, absolutely, also makes you feel old. I'm not that old yet, but it does make me feel old as well. And you look at like somebody like Kimi Raikkonen, for example, who raced against his father intensely for world championships, and is now back and racing against his son. And I think Raikkonen even raced against Jos Verstappen as well, Max Verstappen's father. I'm pretty sure Jos was still on the grid when Kimi made his debut in 2001. So yeah, makes Kimi feel old. I'm pretty sure he does. So, but very much looking forward to it. And I don't kind of want to maybe put this out there, but maybe I'll tease it right now. I found out actually during the preseason that the head of communications, or one of the communications guys at Haas, is actually Canadian. His name is Stuart, and is actually a fellow Canadian. I don't know where he's from exactly, but I was trying to get the Haas media login to able to access some assets as a media member, and he replied back, very nice gentleman. He said, happy to help out a fellow Canadian, which is always great to see in the F1 paddock and the grid. And then I followed up with the email just to ask him what the media availability for Mick Schumacher was, to see if we could possibly get him on our podcast or talk to him remotely. And unfortunately, he wasn't available in the preseason, but he did tell me to connect with him again for the Canadian Grand Prix, which is scheduled to happen in June. So very, very much fingers crossed, and hoping that hopefully by the time the Canadian Grand Prix rolls around and we reach out to Stuart at Haas again, that he might be able to help us get a couple of minutes with Mick Schumacher remotely, which would be a tremendous honor, and I think would be an amazing opportunity. That would be great for you guys to listen to as well, and obviously a great opportunity for us to be able to talk to him as well. So fingers crossed that happens, but we'll keep trying to get these guests on for the podcast and for the show as well. So we'll do that. Coming up on an hour left as well. That's a great comment. It's a cycle. Mick will be racing against Robin Raikkonen. Yeah, he probably would be. Although I think Robin might go into bike racing or rallying or something like that, just like his father. But yeah, it's that DNA just trickles down into that generation as well, and I'm sure both of them will be very, very fast. Thoughts on Alonso? Ava says, hopefully Ava, pronouncing that right. Thoughts on Alonso for this year? I think that's been a story that's been flown quite under the radar in the preseason and also kind of in the lead up to this season. We had so much stuff going on in 2020, so I'm not really surprised. But I'm very excited for Fernando Alonso, and I haven't seen him this motivated and sort of this energetic for Formula One in a very long time. I think that when he was with McLaren and those last couple of seasons, it took a lot out of him. And I know that he's a very strong character. He's a very strong personality. A lot of people are going to have their opinions on what happened with him in McLaren and Honda. But I think it just took a lot of energy out of him. But a couple of years away, even though he was still racing, it just rejuvenated him. It recharged his batteries, and he looks completely ready to go. I think if you guys watched the teammate Tail the Tape video of Alpine, I posted a couple of quotes there of him that he was pushing the team that on January 1st, 2021, he wants the team in the factory, already working on the 2022 car. He's in the factory as well on that day. He's pushing the team together, and he's really working with them to try and build a championship-winning car for 2022. I think expectations are sort of trying to fight for third in 2020, trying to do what they did last season and get a couple of podiums. But I think Alonso's really got his sights set on the future in terms of the 2022 car and the regulation changes. Not that he's going to kind of look past this season. I think he's going to try and maximize the A521 this season. But I still think that he's back for that 2022 rule change. And I think that watch out for him this year. That midfield battle, guys, is going to be absolutely exceptional. Ricciardo in the McLaren, Vettel in the Aston Martin, Stroll, we could throw it in there, Lando Norris, the Alpine boys. Ferrari might even be in the mix as well if they're not as competitive as in 2019, 2018. So it's going to be great. I'm very, very much looking forward to that this year. And I think that if we don't get a close championship, which I hope we do, but I don't think that we will, that will be sort of the area of focus, which we'll be really looking forward to. So it should be fun. All right, let me get to some of these other questions here. Do you think that Vettel will be competitive? I do think that he will be competitive. I think that this season he'll be much, much more competitive than he was in 2020. When you really look at it, he can't get much worse than 2020. And I'm not really sure what happened there. I'm not one of those people who thinks that he's lost it or he's never had it. I know I see those things going around. Yeah, sure, I'm a little biased because he is my favorite driver. But I also think that Ferrari environment just took a lot out of him. I think there was a ton of pressure on his shoulders, and we still don't really know what happened behind the scenes in terms of his contract renewal and just the whole Ferrari dynamic in the environment. But we know it's not the healthiest place to work, and I think it just took a lot out of him. He wasn't happy with the rear of the car. And at the end of the day, we also have to just admit that he just did not adapt to the car as well as his teammate Charles Leclerc did. And whether that's because Vettel just has a very particular driving style that he needs a car that's very stable at the rear end in order for him to maximize it, or whether that's just him being sort of older and not able to sort of adjust as easily as the younger drivers. We don't know. The fact is Charles Leclerc was much better in that last year than Sebastian Vettel was, but I think that this is a new opportunity for him. I think the Aston Martin team is very great for him. The way he works, I think he works much better with an English team, as evident by obviously his Red Bull days. And I think that just the whole team environment, Racing Point / Force India, which is now Aston Martin, they've done so much with so little. And now that they have this rebrand and now that they have this more money and consortium from Lawrence Stroll, and they're kind of pushing themselves to be now a bigger team in one of the big three or big four teams, and you bring in a world champion like Vettel, I think that he'll do very well. And maybe right not off the bat of the season, but I think that throughout the year we'll see him much, much better than 2020. So I'm really looking forward to him. But I think he'll be back, and don't be surprised if he's competing for podiums and race wins again and sooner rather than later. So yeah, I'm very much looking forward to what he can do this year for sure. And Rob Graham asks, which teammates would you say are most likely to clash this season? Thanks for the question, Rob. I touched on this a little bit earlier in the stream when we were looking at Ferrari on track. Currently on track at the moment, just under an hour to go in this first session. Lance Stroll is out. We'll get to the track action and give you guys an update in a minute. I think that Ferrari, those teammates will probably be one of the more explosive ones, I think, in 2021. And the reason why I said this earlier as well is because I think that Sainz and Leclerc are two ultra-competitive drivers. I mean, all of these drivers are ultra-competitive, but I think that Ferrari are kind of hoping that Sainz will come in and be a number 2. They've openly said to the public that, we're not going to have a number 1 driver. We're not going to really do any of that. But I think it's pretty clear the fact that they've locked in Charles Leclerc for 5 years, which is very long in Formula 1 terms in terms of a contract, and the fact that they said, to a 4-time world champion, hey, we don't need your services anymore. They clearly want Leclerc as the golden boy at Ferrari and the next world champion. So I don't think that Sainz is just going to lie down to take that easily. I think that he's going to really come in and try and shake things up at Ferrari and, stake his claim as the number 1 and try and really be a race winner and a world champion there. I mean, at the end of the day, Ferrari did have a very tough season last year, but they're still the most successful team in Formula 1 history, and all of that resources behind them. As I'm just watching Nikita Mazepin, a couple of lockups now we've seen. I think this is going into turn 7 this time, but a lot of lockups there from Mazepin. So I think that will be a very spicy and fiery teammate partnership. I also think we look at McLaren and Norris and Ricciardo. I don't think that they're going to have too many sort of on-track incidents. I think in terms of like on-track comings together, that's probably going to be at Ferrari the most, I would say. But I think that Norris and Ricciardo are going to be extremely competitive. So that will be interesting. And who knows, maybe even what we're seeing right now, Red Bull on screen, Max Verstappen and Sergio Perez. We've seen Sergio Perez mix it up in the past with teammates. He's not afraid to go against them. And, he's got a sort of a career rejuvenation now with this opportunity at Red Bull. We know Max Verstappen's not going to give an inch as well. So that could be as well. But I think I'd probably put my money down on Ferrari as potentially the most sort of spicy teammate relationship, I think. So that will be good. And this one from Antonio, just to follow up to that Vettel question. After switching to Aston Martin, he looks a lot, I think you mean younger, or is it just me? I saw that picture of his receding hairline, so I don't know if I'd say younger, but I would probably say rested, rejuvenated, and just sort of somewhat of a pressure kind of lifted off of his shoulder. I think that's just kind of what I look like from him. He's kind of got his groove back. And he's just kind of got more pep in his step. He's sort of walking with a little bit more swagger this year around, and I just think that getting out of that Ferrari environment was the best thing for him. So that was great. And I'm just going to tune in, guys, to the track action right now. Max Verstappen just set the fastest first sector, 24.7 in the first sector, so he is on a push lap here on the medium compound tire, the yellow sidewall tire. I apologize if I'm not referring it to as C1, C2, C3. I just always found soft, super soft, and medium the easiest way to refer to things. So yeah, that Red Bull sparking up very much so. 0.5 quicker so far as he goes through sector 2. A very, very good lap this one is for Max Verstappen. Most likely will improve on his time and stay in first position. Oh, and we got Carlos Sainz going wide there. Not sure exactly what happened. I'm sure we'll get a replay. Looks like Sainz went wide in sector 2, so it won't affect Verstappen's lap. Max crosses the line, 0.7 quicker, a 1:36.74 for Max Verstappen, topping the timing charts as we got 55 minutes left in day 1, session 2 of 2021 preseason testing. You're watching the Backmarkers F1 show live stream watch along. We got a replay of Carlos Sainz. Ooh, I think that was turn 8. Yeah, see, that's a tricky corner, too. Every time I drive it in F1 2020, you kind of want to get on the power early, but, that rear end kind of stepped out on him as well. So Carlos Sainz not exactly happy yet with his new SF21. He's currently down in 8th place. We got Lewis Hamilton on the track. A lot more action as we got going here. We kind of had a little bit of a lull. So we got more cars out on track now. Lewis Hamilton out in the Mercedes W12. He is on the white sidewall. I'm going to see if I can find the tire nominations here. But here we got, here's the Williams coming out of the garage. Let's see if we can get some audio for you guys on this. What do you guys think of the Williams livery? It's I've seen split opinions. I've seen people that are saying they love it. It's one of their favorites. And then I've seen people say it looks like a F1 2020 mod, one of those self-created ones that you do there. So I kind of said, I think I tweeted on the day of their launch that in some angles it looks really good, and then other angles from the front it looks a very kind of weird and awkward. But it's definitely new. I'm not sure if they're going to be adding any more sponsored decals or anything like that with the new sponsors they added. Let's take a look here at the Haas VF21 out on track. So Haas also has that upgraded Ferrari power unit in the back of their car there as well. And I mean, guys, this is a great video here. Oh, let's not go full screen there. You can really see the dust kicking up. Yeah, there's just a ton of dust. A lot of dust and sand on the start-finish straight here. And they're pretty much racing now. They're on the main straight. So we got Lewis Hamilton currently out on track. Yeah, that was what I forgot there for a second what I was going to look up, but I wanted to see what the exact tire specs were. So let's see. So they got the C1 white, which is the no bracket sidewall. They've got the C2 white, which is the white sidewall. So Hamilton right now, currently out on track, is looking at the C2 tire. Max Verstappen set his quickest time just earlier on the C3 yellow tire. You also have the C3 prototype, which is the no marking sidewall tire, and then the C4 red and the C5 red prototype with no sidewall markings. So that is, I'll try and maybe refer to them as the C1s, but I'll probably just end up going with the soft and medium compounds again. So Hamilton currently out. Definitely not going for a performance run here. I think Mercedes are really just trying to wrap up this day and learn as much as they can about their gearbox issue. If you guys can see this tweet here saying Bahrain test gearbox issue came out of nowhere. And, maybe some of those early preseason remarks about the power unit issues, maybe there was something real there because it seems like they definitely had some issues, obviously. So, yeah, that'll be interesting to follow if they can get that figured out. But currently, I think that they're just trying to salvage whatever they can out of this day. And Hamilton's seems very happy with the car, kind of riding the curbs aggressively. It seems like he's getting a lot of snap oversteer into the corners as well. He sets a 1:33.1 on that latest lap. He's still down there in 8th place. They're just showing a replay now of Max Verstappen. How many laps have Mercedes done? I will check that in a minute for you, Antonio. I think what I'll do, guys, tomorrow is I might try and the box that has the live timing, I might try and make it a little bit bigger in terms of its width, and then I'll be able to fit in the lap count as well. I think that would help as well. So let's go through the order here. We'll do an update with everybody, whether you're a fan of Ferrari, Mercedes, or Alpine, doesn't matter, but we'll get through all the updates. So currently 50 minutes, coming up on 50 minutes left of day one session. We got Max Verstappen in the fastest lap overall of a 1:36. Verstappen has completed 116 laps of running so far in day one, which is the most out of any driver. Esteban Ocon is in P2 with a 1:31.6, 9/10 off of Verstappen's best lap. Ocon set his lap on the C4 red soft tire, while Verstappen set his on the C3 yellow tire. Ocon is right behind Verstappen in terms of lap count with 114 laps completed. And then after that, we're seeing a lot less lap counts because drivers are also splitting. So Verstappen and Ocon have got the whole day to themselves versus other teams like McLaren, for example, who are splitting. So we've got Lando Norris in P3, who's completed 33 laps. Antonio Giovinazzi in 4th place with a 1:31.9, a very strong lap for Alfa Romeo. I know we're not looking into lap times too much, but a good lap nonetheless. He's completed 50 laps. Daniel Ricciardo, who was quickest in the morning session, is 5th place with a 1:32.2. He completed 45 laps this morning. Then come the AlphaTauri boys. Pierre Gasly in 6th with a 1:32.2. 74 laps completed for Pierre, which was the most in the AM session. Right behind him, his rookie teammate Yuki Tsunoda with a 1:32.7, and he's got 37 laps completed. He's currently in the car for this PM session. Then we got Carlos Sainz in the Ferrari making his debut for the Scuderia, a 1:32.8 with 45 laps completed. Lewis Hamilton in 9th for Mercedes, a 1:32.9. We just saw him complete a lap on the C1 tire. He's got 33 laps done. Leclerc in 10th, who had a power unit issue this morning, which brought out a red flag. He's in 10th place. A 1:33.2 was his best lap time with 59 laps completed. And then Kimi Raikkonen with a 1:33.3, 63 laps completed. 12th place, Sebastian Vettel in his debut for Aston Martin officially with a 1:33.7 with 51 laps completed. Then we got Roy Nissany for Williams, who is the reserve driver. He's actually got the whole day of testing today. 74 laps completed so far, his best lap time of a 1:34.7. And then rounding out, we got 14th and 15th, the Haas boys, Nikita Mazepin, a 1:34.7 with 49 laps completed. Mick Schumacher, only 15 laps completed so far this morning, and he had a best lap time of a 1:35.1. And then Valtteri Bottas was penultimate there, second to last, 16th place with a 1:36.8, and only 6 laps completed because of a gearbox issue. And Lance Stroll, currently the last driver in the timing screens. He's out on track at the moment, a 1:37.9 with 32 laps completed. So that is your rundown of the PM session events so far, and of course the morning as well. And we still got a lot of cars here out on track. A lot of running going on out at the moment. Let's see, is there any team radio or anything we can get you guys? I will get to some of your questions and comments in a moment. I know I got a couple that I'll need to just catch up on. Verstappen's completed double the race distance of the Bahrain Grand Prix today with that last couple of laps there. Yeah, and you can kind of tell it's very different. Verstappen seems a lot more comfortable in the car than Hamilton does at the moment, which it's good for Red Bull. I mean, I think a much smoother start to their preseason testing than in the last couple of days, or excuse me, the last couple seasons. But do not count Mercedes out just yet. I think we've done that too many times in the past, and we've all been burned by it. So I think Mercedes might still have some tricks up their sleeves as we continue on in this preseason test. So unfortunately, they're not doing team radio on the official live commentary on F1.com, which is unfortunate. But let's see if we can get any different type of, let's see, performance. Okay, so they're only doing that for the race. Lap chart, they're only doing that for the race. Currently 31.9 degree track temp out in Bahrain. Let's look at tire history. Here you'll be able to see some of the more info here on which tires were used. All right, let me get here to some of your questions here. So I think this was going back to our Vettel chat. One comment here says that hairline is a complete violation. Yeah, I don't know. You know, I think that it might have been Vettel was trying to get some sort of a hair transplant or something. I'm not sure, because I remember a couple years ago, I don't know if there's any tennis fans out there, but Rafael Nadal, who sort of has a similar problem, he was getting some sort of a hair transplant as well, and he had kind of the same look as Vettel, so I'm not sure if that was the issue, but yeah, it was definitely weird seeing that. I just wanted to highlight this tweet for you guys here. Fernando Alonso to race with titanium plates and jaw in 2021, but says performance will be ineffective. So yeah, we actually didn't mention that when we were talking about Alonso earlier, but thank God that cycling accident wasn't more serious, but it's still pretty serious if he's got titanium plates in his jaw that he's going to have to race with. So I don't know, maybe that'll get him out of media obligations, but definitely that accident was actually pretty serious. But hopefully he'll be okay and it won't really put any effect on his performance. Oh, and I wanted to point you guys to this. There's an excellent account on Twitter called F1 Portrayed by Top Gear, and they make just hilarious tweets about, whatever's going on in the F1 world, but they reference it to different episodes in Top Gear, and they just posted this one, Sandstorm at F1 testing, and they've got a bunch of really, really great tweets, so check that out. It's hilarious. They post just so timely, too, with some of the snippets that they take out of Top Gear, so this is awesome. They do a really good job on that one. So nothing going on there at the moment. Let's see if we got any updates here from friend of the show, Chris Medland. If you don't know Chris Medland, he starred in the first season of Netflix F1 Drive to Survive. One of the best journalists out there. So check him out at Chris Medland F1. You'll be able to follow all of his information there. So not much new coming from him trackside. Going to go to Formula One official Twitter. So yeah, they just posted that as well. Yeah, and of course, currently right now in Bahrain, obviously it's an evening session, so we got the floodlights on. Another interesting part of the testing whole thing here as well is that we're used to having in Barcelona at this time, we'd be seeing the sunset and kind of the teams wrapping up. But now, because we're in Bahrain and obviously it's a night race usually, they have the floodlights ready. So different conditions obviously for every team, but it's much easier because it's representative of what the race will be in a couple of weeks' time. So currently Lewis Hamilton out on the track. I don't think that they have anything for... Yeah, I was just looking to see if they had a lap tracker on here, but they don't, to see which cars are out on track at the moment. So let me see if I can get to some of these other questions here. RL asks, anyone else think the Saudi Arabia GP should be canceled? I know this has kind of become a hot topic with everybody, with the Jeddah street circuit being announced. Oh, as Lando Norris locks up there going into... difficult to tell which turn that was. I think that was turn 6 going in there as well. Not that many drivers locking up in that one, usually in the turn 7 downhill complex there. But yeah, getting back to the question about the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, very, very controversial topic. And I mean, should it be canceled? Well, I think that if we're going to have that conversation about, should we not host races in countries where, let's say politically or human rights wise, the governments aren't the best. And again, I'm not disagreeing with that there on Saudi Arabia. And I certainly think that there's a lot of issues in that country as well in their government. But if we had to apply that logic, I think that Formula One probably wouldn't be racing in very many countries around the world, probably including Canada and including the United States as well, and very many other countries too. So, I mean, should we cancel it? Obviously it won't be, because it's all about the money. I always found it funny that Formula One was going for the sustainable and green movement or whatever they're calling it nowadays, and yet they announced the corporate sponsor of Aramco, which is a massive Saudi Arabian oil company, and it's a global partner of Formula One now. You'll see all the signage everywhere on the race. So I just kind of, obviously I wasn't surprised that it was very hypocritical, but money makes the world go round nowadays, and that's the name of the game in Formula One. And they're definitely not going to cancel it. I'm sure you might see some protests and things like that, and maybe not even, but I'm not a fan of it, just speaking from a sport perspective. I know if people tune into our show regularly, you'll know we don't really touch into the politics that much. I think that you guys get enough politics as it is in your everyday lives, everywhere you go, even in sport nowadays. So we try and just avoid it, just so that we can give everybody a break and kind of a way that you can tune out and just enjoy sport. Sport's supposed to bring us together and of all walks of life, so that's what we try and do. But just getting on the sports side of things, I just don't see the point of going to Saudi Arabia and building a brand new street circuit, which I don't know if you guys have seen it. I don't know if I can maybe pull it up for you guys just to see how ridiculous the track looks, because there's like 1,000 turns. They haven't even honestly confirmed how many turns that they've got yet. And it just seems very, very, very tight and extensive. And yeah, I don't even think they have... Okay, yeah, so they haven't posted here on their official website, but if you search up some images of the potential circuit, it's a ton of corners. So I'm not just very happy with going to a brand new street circuit that probably isn't going to be all that exciting in terms of racing. I think if 2020 gave us a lesson in anything, it's that sometimes the older ways are better, and going to classic tracks like Mugello and Imola and Portimao and the Nürburgring, for example, I think that's where Formula One should go back to. And I think that those are, Formula One specific tracks almost. They're race specific tracks. I think that those racing tracks also give us the best opportunities for racing. And I just think that's where it should go. So I'm not exactly sure. I mean, let's wait and see. Let's see what happens. But I think that there was a ton of great tracks that we could go to that are older. Just some in the United States, for example, like a Watkins Glen. That would be an example right there. But yeah, I'm not a big fan of, obviously I know why they're doing it because of the money reason, but I would just much rather they go to classic Formula One tracks. So I'm happy that we're back at Portimao. Very happy that we're back at Imola as well. But I think that should sort of be the way to go. So hopefully that answers your question there. But yeah, let's hopefully get some other replies as well to see what you think. Not really winter testing at 31 degrees. Hell, that's some great winter testing, though. I'll tell you that. I wish we had 31 degrees right now where we're at. But currently we got a little bit of a lull going on as we see Alpine and Mercedes box and head back into the garage. I don't think we have... we got one car on the track at the moment, which is Lando Norris. So he's got the track to himself. He's currently third with the best time of a 1:31.8. Yeah, I agree with you there, PSG underscore or .au. Can't see if I read that right. But let's hunt out the old ones in reference to the tracks. No need for new designs. I would agree. I think that we've added plenty of decent new tracks, for example, like Baku, which is okay. It's given us some interesting races in the past, but I don't think that, like, for example, Hanoi, the Vietnam street circuit, personally, when I drove it on F1 2020, I didn't like it that much. I found it a very frustrating track to try and get a rhythm in. I think overtaking there is difficult, much like it is in sort of every street circuit. I think if you have something like Monaco, which is always the classic, I know the races there aren't exciting, but it's a classic. It's something that's important to the history of Formula One. It's a spectacle. But more street circuits I don't really want to see. I kind of want to see a lot of more track-specific Grand Prix circuits. And I'm just looking now. We got Fernando Alonso on camera. So he's in the garage. He'll be in the car tomorrow. But, let's bring back Mount Panorama. Yeah, that would be a good track. That would be a nice track. There's a lot of great tracks that you could possibly race at. Like, I know F1 wants to break more into the U.S. market. You have Indianapolis, for example, that you go to. If you want to go extreme, you can go to the Daytona 24 Hours track, for example, if you want. But they've got like Laguna Seca, for example, in California, which if you guys didn't see, Romain Grosjean was doing some testing there with IndyCar. He did a great video sort of comparing the differences between F1 and IndyCar, which I thought was really cool. So check that out on his, I believe he was on his YouTube channel or his Twitch channel. So yeah, there's a ton of good tracks. Maybe comment some more if I'm not remembering some off the top of my head, not just in the U.S. but around the world as well. So yeah, but let's wait and see. Maybe Saudi Arabia will surprise us with that race, but I kind of doubt it. So coming up on just a half an hour left, man, this 2 hours just went by so quickly. Tomorrow, again, a reminder, we are live at 8 a.m. Eastern time, so an hour earlier than we were today. That'll give us much more time. I really am surprised. I wasn't sure how much interaction or viewership we were going to get on the live stream, but I'm very pleasantly surprised to see a lot of you guys interacting and chatting here on the live stream. So thank you very much. And I'll be announcing a couple things in the next couple minutes, so stay tuned and stick around. That'll be for the fans coming this Sunday, which will be really cool for you guys. But I just want to get back to I want to highlight this comment from Rob Graham here. Which will be first, Stroll World Champ or Leafs win Stanley Cup? I don't know. Is there a way I can highlight this comment here? This is probably the best comment so far. I will send this to Tyler McDonald, our Backmarkers F1 show co-host. He's a big hockey fan. He's a big Ottawa Senators fan, and he hates the Leafs, as many Ottawa Senators fans do. If you're completely not familiar with NHL hockey, If you're outside of North America and you don't follow it that much, you might have no idea what we're talking about. But the Toronto Maple Leafs haven't won a Stanley Cup since, what is it, Rob? I believe it's 1967. And, yeah, they've kind of been the butt of a lot of jokes around the National Hockey League because they really haven't won anything since then. And they've sort of barely made the playoffs in the last couple of years. They have some really good teams in the past couple of years, but they just haven't been able to put it together to even make a run to the Stanley Cup Finals. So my answer to that question would be Lance Stroll, world champion. And I'll tell you why, because if you look at last season, Lance Stroll had pole position. He had a podium, and, he had a podium even in his Williams days. So I'd say much better chances, I think, for Lance Stroll to become world champion, especially if Aston Martin have a good car under them and are kind of making their way up into the top echelon of Formula One. So, yeah, I think it's a safe bet to say it's going to be Lance Stroll. Yeah, barely remember. I was 6. Wow. Yeah, that's definitely a long time for one team to not win a Stanley Cup or any championship for that regard. So, yeah, barely remember. I think a lot of people barely remember it. I remember when I used to live more down there in Niagara Falls. We were very close, obviously, to the U.S. border in Buffalo. And then, we were closer to Toronto, obviously, in the greater Toronto area. So I only really got to watch the Leaf games. So I was actually a Toronto Maple Leafs fan growing up. But, I smartened up in the last couple of years and grew out of that. And now I just, kind of just don't really support anybody. I kind of don't watch hockey as much as I used to. But, yeah, so appreciate that comment. That was a good one. I want to get back to some of the other conversations on circuits as we watch Nikita Mazepin go around the track at the moment. He's currently down in 14th place. A lot of drivers struggling for grip still, very, very sandy out there. So we'll keep an eye out. He's currently the only driver out on track at the moment. So let's get back into the chat. We got another one from Garrett Murphy saying Watkins Glen. Yeah, I think I mentioned Watkins Glen earlier, but that's another great track. It's one F1 used to race at, I believe, back in the 70s. And a very good track. So that was it. There's another one. They might build a street circuit in Miami. Yeah, this has been going on for, I'd probably say 2 years now. I think I remember back in 2018 reporting on some of that news that Miami was trying to build a street circuit. First, I think they wanted to do it by the beach. And then I think the new proposed is to go around the American Airlines arena. But there's a lot of pushback from the locals there in Miami, the people that live in that area. It was funny because I remember reading something that one of the residents or city council person said that, they don't want something like Formula One, coming with all the loudness and the noise of the engines. And I'm like, clearly this person doesn't know the V6 turbo hybrid era, because clearly you don't have to worry about loud engines when Formula One comes to town nowadays. But there's a lot of, around Hard Rock Stadium. It's not American Airlines Arena. Hard Rock Stadium, home of the Miami Dolphins and home of actually the Miami Open tennis tournament that's coming up in a couple of weeks' time. So, yeah, I think they're going around the Hard Rock Stadium because I think that the owner of the Hard Rock Stadium is involved in the discussions, but they really kind of have stalled in their plans of trying to do something like that. So I don't know if it's going to happen. It might end up turning out to be like the New York or the New Jersey Grand Prix, if you guys remember back to like 2012 when New Jersey was scheduled to have a race. And I think that it just didn't come together, the finances, and I think that was supposed to be another street circuit again, and it just never happened. So it might be the case again with Miami, but we're not sure. Again, from a standpoint of money and from the standpoint of a show, obviously a Miami race would be a spectacle. Miami's a party city. You got a lot of high rollers that live there. It's obviously excellent climate as well, a very beautiful place. In terms of racing, though, I mean, you're not going to really get much great racing from that. So I think they're trying to kind of almost make like a Monaco of the U.S., which I don't think is going to turn out very well. So, yeah, let's wait and see what happens, but I wouldn't hold my breath on Miami. Another one here that was a little bit earlier from Antonio. What do you think about Singapore? I believe you're mentioning or referring to the track and not to the Singapore as a country, because I don't know much about it, other than it's a very clean country from what I've heard. In terms of the track, the Marina Bay circuit, I think it's okay. It's very challenging. I like that aspect of it, that it's a very difficult and challenging physically and mentally, which is nice because we always talk about the G-forces nowadays in Formula One in terms of how much stress it puts on the body and that drivers need to be fit. But in other aspects, Formula One is not as physically difficult as it used to be in the days when, there was no power steering and when the cars were a little bit more physical to drive. But something like Singapore kind of neutralizes that. And of course, the heat also adds in another element to it, which is, fun for us fans to see kind of which driver can excel physically. Obviously not for the drivers as much, but I think it's an okay circuit. If it's good for that sort of Asian market to have a circuit like that. It was the very first night race too in Formula One, which is nice. So I'm okay with Singapore, and I'm happy with Singapore being on the calendar. F1 cars these days not loud like the V8, V8 and V10. I completely agree with that. And if you guys haven't seen that video that I did a couple months prior about Alonso's R25 V10 runs at Abu Dhabi, then I definitely agree with that. How about F1 on Toronto Indy track? I think that would that would break a lot of these cars in half. I'm glad you brought that up, Rob, and hopefully you tune in tomorrow when Tim Hauraney comes on the show, because Tim has actually raced the streets of Toronto back in his Champ Car Atlantic days, so he'll talk, and he's talked about that in our podcast previously. That track in Toronto is absolutely brutal. If you know anything about Canadian roads, they're not all that great in certain cities. Toronto, they're pretty brutal. Here in Ottawa, they're absolutely atrocious as well. It's just all that winter and the salt that they pour everywhere. So the roads aren't very great. And that track is very brutal. So I don't think that F1 could do that just with the low ride heights that these cars run and all the little intricate parts in the front wing and the floors as well. And it's very, very narrow. It's very tight. But it'd be very interesting. It would definitely be very interesting to see. I mean, before I moved out here to Ottawa, I used to go to that Honda Indy, or back when I went, it was called the Molson Indy. I used to go every single year back when it was Champ Car, which was just an amazing racing series. Loud Cosworth engines, naturally aspirated. Although I want to say those were maybe turbos, but I do think that they were at one point naturally aspirated, and they just sounded brilliant. I love going to the races there in Toronto. I don't think that anything that you do could help the F1 cars, that's for sure. And speaking of Canadians, we got Lance Stroll currently on screen. He was out on the C1 tire there. They're just wheeling him back into the garage. He's still down there in 17th place, so I'm wondering if Aston Martin are just doing anything, not doing any performance gains. They're just trying to get in as many laps as possible because they're not really doing anything that sort of lights up the timing sheets that we've seen at the moment. We're coming up to... Where's my timer here? Coming up on 25 minutes. Pretty quiet so far in this last hour of testing. Here you guys can see they just showed Mick Schumacher on screen. Like even Haas's uniforms or team kit wears, they went with the Russian flags as well. So, oh yeah, you saw this is from Rob, saw Rahal win the first one in 1989. Yeah, that's awesome. Racing was much better in those days, wasn't it, Rob? I mean, I just remember even going back to the first one I went to in 2005. It was just so different than, the later years. I think after they went through some management changes as well, I think Andretti Group or somebody took it over when they went over to call it the Honda Indy, and the fan experience just wasn't the same. Everything after that just wasn't the same. It wasn't as great as it was in the early days. Yeah, Lando Norris going strong, absolutely. He's actually currently out on track right now. We're riding on board with him. Third place at the moment. He set his personal best first sector so far, sparking away as he launches his MCL 35M down into turn 7. DRS open. Currently, we got 4 cars out on track at the moment. Yeah, the McLaren, the MCL 35M looks pretty hooked up, much like the Red Bull. Looks pretty good here in the second sector. He's 1/10 down, actually, on Max Verstappen. He's going personal best in his Sector 1 and Sector 2. Let's see if he can put together a really strong Sector 3 here and maybe get himself at the top of the timing sheets. Ooh, a little bit wide there. A little bit of oversteer getting on the power too early out of the final corner. He will cross the line and will go second place, a 1:30.8. 2/10 off of Max Verstappen. Pretty good lap, though, from Lando Norris. That is also on the medium compound tire. much in the same as Max Verstappen did his as well. So very good lap there from Lando Norris. I think McLaren are going pretty strong now this day one session. If you weren't with us in the morning or in the morning when we joined the stream, Daniel Ricciardo was the quickest during the AM session of testing. So good start so far for McLaren. They've kind of started pretty well in the last couple seasons, though. So, yeah, let's see if they can continue their pace. They're just going to do a lap comparison here. So let's see. Norris was able to make up most of his time on Ricciardo actually in the first sector. He's up 0.3 on his lap. Or, excuse me, was down 0.3 on the C2 tire that Ricciardo set his lap on. So, yeah, very good for the McLaren boys. I think I saw a question here. Yeah, that was from Rob again. So Norris versus Ricciardo, who wins? I like Lando Norris. I think he's a very talented young driver. I still see Daniel Ricciardo coming out on top. I think that Ricciardo might be slower to start in the beginning of the season just because it's a new team, so he's going to have some time to adapt. But I think that it'll be Daniel Ricciardo eventually. I think Ricciardo is one of the more underrated drivers on the grid. I think he's world championship material, and I believe that Lando Norris will have his work cut out for him. But I think it's a very strong partnership, and it's one that I think will work out very well. But I think Daniel Ricciardo will get the best of him at the end of the day. So, yeah, that's my prediction for how that's going to go. So coming up on 20 minutes remaining in the session, just going to reload here my Twitter feed, see if we got anything new. Check in with the official Formula One feed. Yeah, not much new happening currently at the moment. Seems like it's just Lando Norris out on track at the moment. We'll be going for another run. Let's see if he's going to do another push lap here. And maybe try and make up that 0.2 to try and get past Max Verstappen here for first place. It's coming into coming into turn 4. I keep thinking that they're going to use the outer layout and go left that time, so 0.6 down in the first sector, so it looks like he's taken most of the life out of that tire on that first run, and not sure how much fuel. That's the thing, is that we never know how much fuel is in these cars, so we don't know which lap times are the most representative because of which teams are running fuels. Oh, when he went pretty hard over the curb there. I think he almost he hit the right side of the front wing off the curb because it was sparking off there. I haven't really seen a driver take that line before. He went very, very aggressive to the curb there on turn 7, so that was interesting. But yeah, that will definitely mess up that lap for him. It certainly won't be as quick as the previous lap before that. Definitely Max Verstappen looks like he'll end up rounding out the session out on top. Yeah, Norris comes into the pit, so he really only had one lap out of that tire. I think earlier Rob was mentioning or asking if there was any news on what Red Bull were hiding on the back of their car, whether in terms of the floor or anything. I haven't seen anything yet. I'm going to be looking into that after I get off the stream. I'm going to try and do a little bit of a report for day one to have it ready for you guys tomorrow so that we can kind of go through that. I don't pretend to try and be an expert on all the technical bits, and it's sometimes difficult for me to see, so I'm going to see on Twitter from some of the more F1 tech experts and to see what sort of things that they've been able to pick up on some of the new cars. But Red Bull was one I was interested in as well, Rob, as they're showing a replay of, it was definitely Norris hitting the right side of his front wing off of that curb, so that's probably why he ended up boxing after that lap as well. But I haven't seen yet what they were hiding, but they were definitely very, very secretive about their RB16B, I think more so than any other team, so I'll be curious to see what they were hiding exactly. Maybe I will send out a tweet to Chris Medlin as well afterwards to see what he's been able to find. Currently, Lance Stroll is out on track, just doing a warm-up lap here. I believe he is on the prototype C1 tire. Let's see if we can see. We got Stroll out on track. It looks like one of the Williamses as well, an Alfa Romeo, and I believe a Red Bull is also out on track at the moment. Trick diffuser? Yeah, possibly. Something like that. I think it has to be something with the rear or maybe the floor that they were trying to hide. But yeah, it looks like Stroll is out on the prototype tire. Sure, just going to excuse myself for a second here, guys. Just going to do a fill up on my coffee over here. Just be back in 30 seconds. All right, I'm back. I got the custom, I don't know if you guys can see that, Backmarkers F1 Show mug, which I'll need to get a couple more of these, and maybe we'll send some out to the fans as well if you guys are interested. We do not have our own merchandise line just yet, but maybe sometime in the future we'll get something like that out for you guys. Yeah, Stroll is a little bit faster this time around, going very well on this lap on the prototype tire. He's got personal best Sector 1 and Sector 2, very clean on the exit of the final corner. And as he crosses the line, yeah, goes fourth fastest. A great lap there from Lance Stroll. 1.1 seconds off Max Verstappen's best time, but a 1:31.7. A pretty good lap on the prototype tire there from Stroll. So it looks like Aston Martin was just trialing some stuff on the car and maybe running some tests, and they had some performance. So now they're letting it loose a little bit at the end of this session as they're just showing a replay now of Lance's lap. Seemed pretty clean. Didn't go too wide there on the final exit. I think he might have locked up going into turn 7. No, it looked pretty clean. Very well done. Yeah, it could be maybe just at the end of the session, you know, take out a little bit of fuel and try and make some headlines there at the top of the timesheets. But on the prototype tire, too, it's pretty good. Just go back to an earlier question here. Let's see, nothing yet from Twitter here. Seems like my feed is loading up a little bit slower. But yeah, nothing yet. Just a couple of sandstorm pictures from Aston Martin. They've done a very good job on their social media. Yeah, so sorry. So the question was Norris versus Russell. Which one has more potential? Very good question as well, too, and a difficult one. I think I would probably go with George Russell as the one that has the more potential. I think he's shown us a little bit more, obviously, in his Williams than I think Norris has in his McLaren. I think Norris has been equally impressive as well, and he's done a very good job so far for McLaren. I think he'll get better. But I think that George Russell does have the most potential, and I also say that from, for example, last year Fernando Alonso said the same thing, that George Russell was the young driver that impressed him the most. And, you know, I tend to agree with the two-time former world champion. And he sees probably things that I can't see and the rest of you guys can't see. I mean, obviously we see his impressive qualifying performances and what he's able to do. But there might be some finer details that Alonso could see that, you know, people that aren't professional racing drivers aren't able to see. So I'd probably go with George Russell on that one. Yeah, definitely. Nikita Mazepin's been out for quite a long run here. I'm going to see if I can get you guys a lap update of which drivers have done the most laps so far. Excuse me. So let's see. On the leaderboard, I'm going to reload that. So currently it is still Max Verstappen who's done the most laps with 132. Of course, those numbers are skewed with him and Esteban Ocon because they are the only drivers running for their teams. And Esteban Ocon right behind him in terms of lap count with 123. Lando Norris has done 41 laps. Lance Stroll, 41 laps, which is pretty solid for Aston Martin. They're coming up on almost 100 laps in total for both drivers. Vettel did 51 this morning. Let's see here. who else is out on track currently at the moment that we could talk about? Nikita Mazepin, who is out on track. Mazepin has completed 63 laps. He's 4.1 seconds off the pace with a 1:34.7. Yeah, I would agree with PSG there. To take Lewis's car and drive it to the edge as he did, incredible, very incredible. To literally, had it not been for the Mercedes pit stop issues, probably would have won the race. And when you look at his overtake on Valtteri Bottas as well, going into that tight section of the secure outer layout. I mean, that's why I think he's got that most potential to have that as your first race in the big team and to perform that well and to honestly just look like a driver that was, if you were a non-F1 fan tuning in for the first time, you wouldn't know that's George Russell first time in that car, that was his first race with the team. He looked completely at home and like you knew what he was doing. So I think from that standpoint, that's why I would say that he has the more potential. Just unfortunate that, the Mercedes had to screw up on the pit stops and George wasn't able to at least get a podium, but probably would have won the race in my opinion. Let's see if we got any updates here from Chris. Nothing at the moment. Pretty quiet. We got Carlos Sainz out on track. As we come up to wrap up day one of testing. Man, pretty crazy that we're already at the end of day one in testing. I'm going to be looking forward to, after the stream is done, to be going through the AM session and watching a little bit of that. And, just going to be getting set then for tomorrow's stream as well. Very excited to be doing this this year. And I'm going to be looking to try and do a couple more of these live streams throughout the year. Maybe for free practice sessions or, qualifying watch-along, stuff like that, I think is something that would be a little bit more enjoyable. I always prefer to do stuff live just because, I don't mind the editing, but sometimes it's just easier to get something done and it's up there and it saves you time. And it's also much better to be able to interact with you guys live. It's a lot more fun that way. Yeah, no updates in terms of that. Sainz so far going quickest, his personal best. He's setting personal best. He isn't going quickest at the moment. He is on the C3 medium tire as well. 9/10 off of Verstappen's best lap time there in Sector 2. Yeah, and also in response to your comment there, PSG, not only is it tailored to Lewis, I mean, he couldn't even fit in the car properly. They had to, cut his boots, and you could see just how tall he was on the onboard cameras, how much different it was. So, yeah, it just makes it even more impressive. As Sainz goes fifth fastest with a 1:31.9 there on the medium tire. Let's see if we can get you guys the tire performance data here. No, not that one. Tire history. Here we go. So that should kind of give you guys a good idea of some of the tires that the drivers were running this morning. Lewis Hamilton also currently out on track. I haven't seen Hamilton out on any of the softer compounds yet. The C5 I haven't seen him out on, and I haven't seen him on the medium either. Let me just see. Yeah, so if you can see guys here on the timing chart, Lewis Hamilton has only been running that C1 hard compound tire. He hasn't been on any of the mediums or hasn't been on any of the softs, the C3s or the C4s. So Mercedes, I think really Mercedes are just happy to get back or get through the rest of this session with no problems on the gearbox or power unit front. Of course, Bottas this morning, if you weren't with us, only completed 6 laps. Had some gearbox issues. Mercedes had to go back and put the curtains up and find the diagnostics issues to their problems, so they only did 6 laps this morning. Other teams, Lance Stroll currently out on the hard compound tire. He was out earlier on the softs. I'm just trying to read out to you guys which drivers actually ran the softest compound, the C5. So it was Lance Stroll went out on the soft tire. Vettel went out on the soft tire this morning. Roy Nissany exclusively on the soft tire today. He hasn't run any other compound, but that's about it. The rest of the drivers like Giovinazzi and Ricciardo, Verstappen, Norris have run a mixture, but mostly on the white sidewall hard tire. And then their fastest laps are actually done on the medium sidewall tire. Oh, not a problem, Rob. No, not a problem at all. It's great to interact with you guys, and yeah, like I said, I love the chat too. Again, I said it earlier, it makes it easier for me when you're on your own to keep the conversation going with your comments and questions. So yeah, I always try and do that as much. When we say to comment on our videos, we really mean that because we try and answer back to as many as possible. It's obviously difficult sometimes where we get a video that does very well, and then we can't answer every single comment, but we always try and interact with you guys, so we encourage that. So yeah, very much love the chat as well. There was another question here from Antonio was, who is your favorite midfield team? Very good question. I think for this year, I think it would have to be Aston Martin. Obviously, again, a little bit biased because Vettel is my favorite driver, supporting Lance Stroll because he is a Canadian, but I also just love the Aston Martin brand. I love the rebrand, the look of the car, just the brand in general. I really love it. So I'd probably be cheering for them for the most part this year. But I also like McLaren. I like Alpine. I'm a big Alonso fan, so I'm cheering on Alonso. So yeah, no, I'd probably say Aston Martin are my definite favorite, but I'm cheering on everybody. And, I'd be happy to see any of those teams pick up another race victory or even a couple of podiums this year. So yeah, I very much like them. As Lewis Hamilton just did a cool-down lap and is going to go out for another run as well. Let's see if he can put in a little bit of a faster lap as the Alpine of Esteban Ocon is just coming out onto the track in front of Lewis, but I'm sure he'll be able to get out of the way. As Hamilton goes around turn 1, currently only 10th, 2.2 seconds behind Max Verstappen's best lap time of a 1:36 as he comes up to the Sector 1 timing area. A lot of drivers now doing that different exit out of turn 4, going very wide, using the little bit of curb and runoff there, as Hamilton sets his personal best in the first sector. Yeah, the W12 and just the black livery in general just looks the best and the greatest under the lights. Yeah, big lockup there from Hamilton as he runs wide, and I think he was affected there by the dirty air of Esteban Ocon. I thought Ocon would get out of the way on the second straight there between turn 3 and turn 4, but I think that affected some of the aerodynamic load on the front of the car, and Hamilton might have to box after that lap if he flat spotted the tire. But he was going well in the first sector there, had a personal best, but then was not able to hook it up together. So let's see if he comes in this lap. Thanks, Rob. Appreciate the comments. Love to have you in the chat. And, yeah, we'll see you tomorrow, Rob. Thank you for joining us today, and have a good day for yourself. And there's the replay locking up the left front for Lewis Hamilton. Yeah, this is such a tricky corner. And even when you're moving the bias all the way to the rear, you tend to still feel like you're going to lock up the front. And especially if you're running behind a car. I mean, we know in Formula 1, even if you're a good decent-sized gap, 1 or 2 seconds, you could still be affected by the dirty air, and I think that Lewis got some of those effects out of there. But it looks like he's going for another lap, so I think that he didn't flat spot the tires too badly there. If you guys are interested, Charles Leclerc will be going live on Ferrari's Instagram at the end of this session. So Hamilton going for another lap. I'm going to look at some of these other questions as well. What about your least liked team / driver? That's an interesting question. I wouldn't honestly say I have like a least liked driver or team. I guess maybe I'd say Mercedes just because they win so often, and I want the championship to be more competitive. As Hamilton just locked up into turn 1. Yeah, I think he's going to have to box because those tires just seem to be dead at the moment. He runs wide in turn 1. So yeah, maybe I guess I would say Mercedes just from that standpoint because him and Lewis and Mercedes are always winning. But yeah, I wouldn't really say I have like a least liked team or driver from that regard. I respect all of them, and some I like more than others. But yeah, I don't know if I would have a least liked driver. I'm not exactly sure. But I'd probably just say Mercedes because they win too much, and hopefully that will change this year. Yeah, you were hoping. Oh, we got a virtual safety car. I was about to get to your comment there, PSG, that you were disappointed that Hamilton re-signed. As replay at Lando Norris. I think that was going into the nope, that's going into turn 1. Yeah, a lot of sand in that braking zone heading into turn 1. Lando Norris, just a small lockup, but he was able to get out of it early enough to where he didn't flat spot the tire. And we got a lot of cars coming out on track at the moment, even though we have a virtual safety car with less than 5 minutes to go. So Hamilton's still out on track on those same set of tires that he locked up on. We got a little bit of a traffic jam here as Esteban Ocon's Alpine is again in front of Lewis Hamilton. So guys, as we're coming up to the end of the stream here, we'll maybe take 5 or 10 minutes after the session is officially over and just do a quick wrap up and look at the times. But like I said, I'll repeat it again. Tomorrow, Saturday, we're live at 8 a.m. Eastern Time. So just figure that out for wherever location you're at. I think YouTube automatically converts it to wherever you are in the world, so you'll know. I believe we're supposed to set the clock some which way or the other this weekend, but it shouldn't affect the timings anyway. So we got that coming at 8 a.m. Shaker from the Backmarkers F1 Show podcast, one of my co-hosts, will be joining me at some point during the stream. And then at 11 a.m., following the completion of the Day 2 Session 2 session, or the PM session, excuse me, Tim Hauraney from the TSN Racing Pod and former Canadian racing driver will join us to break down the day's events and give his perspective from a racing driver as to how the numbers are going so far and his thoughts on testing. And then on Sunday, you'll definitely want to tune in Sunday because I've kind of set aside Sunday as sort of a fan interaction and appreciation day. I mean, every day is like that. But on Sunday, we're going to be announcing a giveaway that we'll be doing at the end of March, just before the first race of the season. I've got some of the giveaway items actually on its way. Some have arrived so far to me, have been shipped out here to Canada, but I don't have them all yet. So if I don't have them all by Sunday, I'll just show you guys the pictures. But if hopefully I can get them by Sunday, then I'll be able to show you guys what we're going to be giving away. There's a lot of really, really cool little knickknacks that are F1 themed. Like, for example, a year ago, I bought these little coasters that you can see here. I don't know if you guys can see them. They're just like little driver coasters. Obviously, these ones are a bit older because they're outdated, but we'll be giving away some of those awesome ones there as well. International giveaway, absolutely. Everybody will be everybody will be eligible, so we'll give it away to whoever wins. We'll announce how you're supposed to enter the giveaway and everything like that tomorrow, so don't worry about that. So, session is over at Day 1 of preseason testing. The session has ended. My timer's, I think, a little bit off here, but that's okay anyway. So let's go down through the final classification. So Max Verstappen was the quickest of Day 1 session. His best lap time of a 1:30.6, followed by Lando Norris P2, Esteban Ocon in 3rd, Aston Martin's Lance Stroll. He just did that 4th place lap not too long ago. He's 1.1 seconds off the gap, but that was actually on the prototype tire, while Ocon was on the C4 soft tire. Then we got Carlos Sainz in 5th, followed by Antonio Giovinazzi in 6th. Pretty good result there for the Ferrari power unit cars, considering the struggles that they've had in the last season or so with engine power. Then we got Daniel Ricciardo in 7th, who set that time earlier this morning in the AM. Pierre Gasly in 8th, his teammate Yuki Tsunoda in 9th. Lewis Hamilton rounds out the top 10. Hamilton struggling a lot for grip and locking up a lot in his final runs there. And so that will be rounding out the top 10 for Lewis Hamilton. Further down the order, just of note, Charles Leclerc in the morning session had some power unit issues, which caused the red flag. He's out in 11th place. Further down, you had Sebastian Vettel in 13th, rounding out the day with a 1:33.7 in the AM session. And the final position in 17th going to Valtteri Bottas, who only completed 6 laps in the morning because of some gearbox issues. And yes, it is... so I think I did answer that. It will be international giveaway. Like I said, we're going to announce all that tomorrow, probably at the beginning and at the end of the stream. But you have to tune in on Sunday because that will be one way you'll be able to find out the information and how to enter for that giveaway. I'm going to try and make it exclusive to the people here on the live stream, so it gives you guys some incentive to join in and tune in to watch our live stream as well. So we'll announce that tomorrow, and on Sunday, hopefully we'll be able to show you guys what we're going to be giving away. So before I go, I'm just going to see if we can round out some information here on Twitter, if there's anything new that we updated. Yeah, we see Tim Harani here, who, like I mentioned, will be on the show tomorrow. Just posting some of the photos here that it was definitely a tough day for Mercedes. Very, very difficult for them. We haven't seen them struggle like this usually, but Lewis Hamilton running wide a lot, struggling for grip, and after the gearbox issues that they've had, I think they're definitely going to be looking for a much, much smoother day tomorrow. So let's see if we got anything here. So Lance Stroll finished the day 46 laps. Best time of a 1:31.7. Again, like I said, that was on the prototype tire. So pretty good lap for Lance. And we can see that they've got some good performance there in that AMR 21. Roy Nissany finished his day with 83 laps completed for Williams. I said this off the top, and I think as well, excuse me, on Twitter before, that very weird that obviously I know why they did it, but still odd that they gave Roy Nissany, the reserve driver, an absolute full day in the car. So, yeah, that was going to be tough for Latifi and George Russell as well, having to make up for lost time. But Roy Nissany finished with 83 laps today. And, yeah, just more pictures here, guys, just to get you an idea of just how sandy the track was. But that Alpine looks pretty good. Looks pretty good in the sand. If you guys weren't with us earlier in the stream, a lot of people were pointing out the massive airbox that the Alpine showed us today. When I leave the stream, I'm going to try and look at all the technical analysis of all the little details and information of the new cars, specifically the RB16B that a lot of people were interested in because Red Bull were very, very secretive on that car. So we'll have all that for you tomorrow. And, yeah, I think that's about it for most part in terms of day one of testing. If you guys got any final comments or a question, drop them in the chat now. If not, then we'll slowly wrap it up. And this preparation will begin for day two of testing. We got Sebastian Vettel chatting with the Williams drivers earlier today with Nicholas Latifi and George Russell. A lot of the teams got their filming days and some special sponsor events going on as well, too, just before everything got going. Oh, no problem. Thank you for joining. We'll see you tomorrow. And that's the final update in the running time. I'm just going to go through the final tire performance data. And then we'll let you guys go here and reconnect for tomorrow. So, yeah, not many drivers running that the softest compound of tire today. Roy Nissany did all of his laps on that soft compound tire. Sebastian Vettel in the AM session did his runs on a soft compound tire. That might also have been because of track conditions as well. Kimi Raikkonen did most of his laps on the medium tire, the C3, the yellow sidewall tire. Interesting to note that Verstappen's quickest time was set on that yellow medium tire, and the rest of his laps, over 100 laps done on that C1 hard tire. Lando Norris exclusively done his laps on that hard tire. He was second place today. Very good result so far for McLaren in the early days of testing. And then Esteban Ocon as well did only a short run on that soft tire and did most of his also on the harder compounds. And Lance Stroll as well set his fastest lap on the prototype and only did minimal running there on the soft compound tire. So that should about do it then for day one of preseason testing. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining today's stream, all the interaction, and everybody chiming in with your questions and comments. It was really, really good. And hopefully all the technical stuff was good in terms of the stream, the video and the audio quality, I think was able to work out well. So very much appreciate everybody joining in. If you got any follow-up questions or if you find anything online that you think is interesting that you'd like me to discuss tomorrow on the stream, tweet it at us at TBMF1Show. Use the hashtag BMF1Stream, and we'll be able to answer those questions or bring them up tomorrow. Hopefully, we'll be able to have some of those tweets for you guys tomorrow as well. Again, as a reminder, we're live tomorrow at 8 a.m. Eastern for day 2 on the PM session. So set your reminders there on YouTube, and we're going to have some great guests lined up for you and announcing our giveaway as well. But that'll do it for me. Thank you very much for joining us on the stream today. I very much enjoyed it. Very much enjoyed the fact that Formula One is back, and I think that there's a lot to talk about from this first session. And I think that day 2 tomorrow is going to be very interesting. Hopefully the sand will clear up a little bit. We have some clearer conditions, and we'll get to see some of these drivers stretch their legs a little bit more in terms of their performance runs. So until then, have yourselves a great day, and we will see you tomorrow for day 2 of preseason testing on the Backmarkers F1 show. Bye for now.